Howdy, with this video, I want to go over the sample APA medical paper on the D2L page. Also want to kind of go over the Purdue online site just real quickly. They do have the sample papers there. It's hard to find stuff on this site sometimes. We got so many links going there, but we're looking for this APA sample student paper. I'll attach that to an email so you don't have to go searching for it too much. We're pretty much going to follow that format. The only thing we're going to be doing differently is we're going to add that abstract page on page 2. Some instructors are still asking for that, so I want you to kind of know how to do that. And all that abstract page is the summary of your essay. And don't make the mistake of trying to do the abstract before you write your essay. How do you summarize something you haven't written yet, right? But that abstract page is just a summary of what you're going to say in the essay. About 200 words. Don't make it too long there. But if you do look at that sample student paper, you'll see all the commentary on the side. But basically, the first page is the title page. For the header, you have the page number. Some instructors may ask you to put your last name in the header or have a running header. In the previous version of APA format, they only had one style. They didn't have a separate student paper versus a professional paper. Then they split it with APA 7. Probably a good thing. It was getting complicated with the professional papers. So some instructors may be, kind of referring to, previous editions of APA when they want the running header and stuff, and, do what they tell you to, right? But you just got to come down about a third of the way down the page. You're going to have your title, then a couple of double space, and you're going to have your name, the college name, the class, my name, then the date of submission. And all that's all that's going to be on page 1. Page 2, you're going to have the abstract. So it's, again, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. They say, but here they start the essay itself. And once you kind of get into the essay, not that radically different from MLA formatting. When they cite, they want to see that year of publication. If you don't have a year of publication, they want N.D. for no date. And you can do that like this in the introduction to the quote. You can do this in the citation. And also, if you have a page number, you want to include that. But the other thing really different from MLA with the quoting and the summarizing and paraphrasing, they're all formatted the same. You're just citing a little bit differently by adding that year of publication. And when you have more than one author, you put in that ampersand, is that what it's called? Between the names. You can kind of see that running throughout the sample essay there. But want to kind of look at the sample medical essay up there on D2L. Not a happy essay, but it's just life. Let me open it up here. And you kind of see he's got the formatting down. He's got the page number. Then he has his title. Kind of what we've been doing. Have a functional title, then maybe not so much creative, but a more informational title. Then his name, college, class, my name, date. The second page is going to be the abstract. No indent for the abstract page, but just a summary of the essay. And again, please don't try to write this before you write the essay. You can't summarize something you haven't written yet. So as you work on your essay, it's always fun to do the title page first. It makes you feel like you started something at least. But just write abstract and go on to your essay, then come back and do the abstract. Then on page 3, you have the title. And it should be the same title that's on your title page. So if you go back and change your title, make sure you change it in both places. Then as you start the essay, again, you're telling someone's story and putting the medical research into that person's story, into the context of their story. So you should be starting with that person. Kind of introduce, who we're talking about, what the situation is. It really depends quite on, what medical issue you're talking about and who you're talking about, right? So here he's kind of introducing what's happening. You may be on page, you may be 2 pages into this before you even cite a source. But actually, there he is, starting to cite sources there, because he's starting to tell us, about certain procedures and stuff. But you introduce the person or the situation, in this case, and you're going to kind of start a chronological timeline so we can kind of see how much time's passing. Especially if you're talking about yourself, you were there and you kind of know all this stuff, but your reader's kind of like, well, how much? If you say, and then a little bit later this happened, it's like, well, how long was that? It can get confusing. So make sure you have a good, clear chronological timeline. So a lot going on in this. You got to kind of tell a person's story, you got to maintain a clear timeline, and then start getting the research in there. And he's starting to talk about trisomy 13 Patel syndrome. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it or not. Kind of notice he's getting his punctuation in there, doing a good job there. You are going to have at least 2 images. Make sure the images kind of contribute to your discussion. And you just do figure 1, then you title it, then you give the image, then you kind of tell us where you got it from. You can just kind of give the reference page citation if you want to. Make sure it's clear what the image is doing. This one's a little vague to me. I don't quite understand what I'm looking at. So make sure it's clear, either in your essay or in your note afterwards, what exactly we're looking at. You can kind of see he's citing using the first word on the works cited on the references page and the page and the year of publication. Sorry, and you're looking for that year of publication whenever you're doing that citing, whether you're doing it as an introduction to a quote or after the quote. Notice here, this is a summary or paraphrase. There's no quote marks around it. It's not offset. So this should be in his own words and sentence structure. And, this might have been taking a whole page of information to get this information. He's like, I can do that in a sentence if I just, put it in my own words. So he's kind of making the essay flow a little faster by using summary or paraphrase there. And summary and paraphrase look exactly the same in an essay. So kind of MLA starting to get away from delineating between the two, just kind of calling them all paraphrases. Then you have the long quote there. 40 or more words for APA format, using the ellipses to show the omission from the quote. So working those punctuation in, putting the research in terms, within the context of the story here, and doing a good job. Starting to run into a few problems here. It's not a perfect essay. Here he's citing trisomy 2000 in the year 2016, and he does it here again. But if we go to the references page, the first word on that references page should be trisomy. And again, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. And there's not one there. There's nothing under T's down here. So then we got to kind of go look through the years. So it could be this one, or it could be this one. So it's not quite clear. The citation's not quite correct. So it's not quite clear where that information is coming from. You want to kind of make sure you avoid that in your own essay. But it's getting complicated, especially with this medical essay. A lot of the titles are kind of the same, and you got to try and delineate between which sources you're using. I think I was about right here, right? So watch out there. Also, there's 2 Johnson sources, so make sure it's clear which one. That should be pretty obvious. Let's go back down there. Yeah, it's this one right here. So he's doing that correctly. So not quite sure what that trisomy source is. So you need to go back and fix that. Okay, I forgot where I was there. But yeah, so there it is. But other than that, it's pretty good. And there's another trisomy. We know that's not on the reference page, so got to go down here, look at that year of publication. Also, I'm doing a lot of work, right? Because he didn't cite the source properly. It's looking like this one. So it should have been Johnson and Fry in the citation there. So watch out there. The rest of it's looking pretty good. He's telling the story, putting the research into the context of the story. Very compelling story if you haven't read this yet. Very sad story too. But and same thing here. It has a second image. Just write figure 2, title it. And he's trying to tell us what we're looking at. He put the arrow in there, I think. And still, it's kind of hard to understand what we're looking at. It's a very very technical topic. So that's one of his struggles with this essay. When you read it, you're gonna be like, whew. He's trying to explain some very complicated stuff. But he does a pretty good job with it. And again, one way you limit the scope of the essay is to make sure you stay focused on that person's story. That's one way to kind of stop yourself from writing your first book. And also, it's a good narrow topic. Yeah, watch out there. Not going to hammer him over that, but pretty good looking references page. Everything's formatted pretty well. little debate about whether syndrome should be capitalized. One of the hard parts for me about APA formatting is the lack of capitalization and particularly in article titles, and what should be capitalized, what shouldn't. But doing a good job there. Yeah, it can easily get to like 10, 11 pages once you have that title page and abstract page and the references page, and the 2 images. So getting into the longer essay here. But just kind of take a deep breath before you get started. Keep in mind you want to start with that person's story. Then once you get to the point where you need to define things, or somebody gets a diagnosis, you need to start telling us what that means, and that's when the research starts coming in. And you also want to end with that person's story, right? What's their prognosis? If you have any questions about it, be sure to let me know. And again, when you look at that sample student essay on the Purdue site, they're getting very, very technical. You don't really need subheadings for this essay. It's not. I know it doesn't feel short when you're writing it, but it's a fairly short essay that we're working on, so you may not need these section headers. If you do, it might just be this first subheading, and that's it. Because you don't want to subhead every single paragraph. And they're going to kind of go through all the exceptions to rules and all that kind of stuff. But basically, just make sure you're citing using the first word on your references page entry, the year of publication, and a page number if you have one. And that's what I'll be looking for. But again, if you have any questions, be sure to let me know. And we will talk to you later. Bye-bye.